This is just some top line topics on what is called the NPT, which stands for the needle plate trimmer. The NPT was just recently released on the EMT16X machines, which is the machine that I have behind me. So we have heard that technical support has been taking some calls about a couple different topics. So we wanted to address those topics with you today so that we can avoid having you guys having downtime and having to make the call, so that you would be able to identify it yourself. So NPT needle plate trimmer is basically exactly what it stands for. Is the thread trimming device is part of the needle plate assembly. Really, probably the only reason that you're going to have to take this off is because of a maintenance for the NPT. And that falls under the 2 million stitch maintenance. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this needle plate so that we can see what is going on underneath there. Now, to remove this needle plate is just on the EXTS and also the EMT16 and the 16 pluses. You have your two screws that come up from the bottom into either the red or NPT machines are going to have the red lower extrusion arms. So once we have those, just lift the needle plate straight off of the machine. Now, if we look underneath here at the bottom side of the needle plate, this item right here is what's called the movable knife. And as you can see, that item slides forward and back. So that is part of the trimming system. And as you can see, it is part of the needle plate. Now, when you're doing the 2 million stitch maintenance for the NPT, you are told to go ahead and remove this cover, which is just the long silver cover that goes down the center of the red neck. It is held on by magnets, and you need to take some canned air and then blow this linkage area out. Very simple to do. And then you're also prompted to lube the movable knife. So a good reference point would be right above this pin. Take your oiler and place some oil right here on the top of the movable knife. And then take your Allen wrench, and in this hole right here, you're going to slide the movable knife forward and back about 8 to 10 times. What you're doing there is just making sure that we are getting the oil spread throughout the whole area of the movable knife. Now, when you're going to reinstall this needle plate, it has to go over this pin right here. If it does not go over this pin, then your trimmer is not going to actuate correctly. So on the needle plate, if I slide the movable knife forward, right here you can see there's kind of like a hard stop or a pocket for that movable knife. So when you go to reinstall the needle plate, you've got to make sure that that movable knife is pushed all the way to the rear of the needle plate as far as it will go. With the movable knife in this position, then you're going to come across and you're going to kind of start one side of the needle plate like this, and you're going to roll it over, and then you will feel that linkage got into the movable knife. All your home positions are set. Everything is set correctly. So now with your needle plate back on, just as you would do with any plate, anytime you take a needle plate on or off of a machine, you need to center that needle plate to the needle. And again, this applies to any of the embroidery machines, ours, and I would assume the other manufacturers as well. So when I reinstall this needle plate, I'm putting these two screws in loosely so I have just a little bit of left and right play with that needle plate. Now, to center the needle plate, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring my grabber out. As you can see, I am on needle number 8. So I'm going to go ahead and take my thread out of needle number 8. I'm going to engage the emergency stop. And I'm going to, using the arm shaft, I'm going to just rotate my Z-axis so that my needle is down to its lowest position. And then I'm going to visually look at where the needle's going through the needle plate hole. And I'm going to manipulate the needle plate left and right until the needle is going straight down through the center of that hole. And then I'm going to tighten my 2 screws. And now I have centered my needle plate back to the needle. I can center my needle plate to any needle position on the machine. This machine just happened to be on needle number 8. But I can do it on whatever needle position I am on. I'm going to go ahead and release my emergency stop. You can see that the machine went to head up on its own. Head up being the neutral or relaxed position of your take-up levers and your needle bars. So you can see now I have got the needle plate centered. Oh, sorry, yep, and then you do just slide the cover back onto the red lower arm. On the back side of that silver cover, there's a little notch that indicates the back of this cover. Okay, so at this time, I've completed my 2 million stitch maintenance for my NPT trimmer. I might want to do a test real quick just to make sure that my cutter is moving in and out. So if I'm going to do that, I'm going to go to my operating software and I'm going to go into Tools, Maintenance, Steppers. As you can see in the software, our cutter column is grayed out, but our selector column is available. So that is the indication that that is what we're going to use to do our start test. So what I can do is click on Start Test. And if we can get real close to the end of the needle plate right here, you're going to see the movable knife almost protruding out past the end of the needle plate. See it right there? So that is the indication to show that I have got that movable knife on the linkage correctly, and my trimmer should function just as it did before we did the maintenance on it. Now, if I do... Oh, sorry, clicked End Test to stop the test. Now, if I take this needle plate off for either the 2 million stitch maintenance or I forgot to click down a pinch roller, so now I've got a bird's nest that I need to try to clean out from underneath the needle plate, whatever the case may be, I put the needle plate back on, and then lo and behold, I'm having needle breaks now all of a sudden. Very first thing I'm going to check is make sure that I've got that movable knife over the linkage correctly. If this is the linkage, if this is the movable knife and this is the linkage, and the linkage is behind the movable knife, that's going to move the movable knife farther out, and it actually could be underneath the needle plate and striking. So, and also if I've done the linkage like this, not onto the movable, the start test isn't going to work either, because everything's moving too far then, and you're going to get a trimmer error of some nature. So if you have just removed a needle plate, put a needle plate back on for the NPT, and all of a sudden you're having these errors that you didn't have before, that's the very first place that you need to check, is that you've got the needle plate installed correctly back into the machine or back onto the machine. One of the other things that you might run across is if you are getting some mistrims with your NPT trimming system. Of course, one of the things you can do is you can go to www.melco-service.com, and if you go to the FAQ tab, and I actually wrote down the link, so okay, FAQ, Help Center Knowledge Base, Machines, See All. There's a tab in there for EMT 16X with parentheses NPT, setting the knife home. So that is a very useful document to make sure that all of the mechanical settings for the NPT are in the correct position for it to work also. And then one other thing is, if you're still having mistrims, examine the needle plate. Take that needle plate off, look underneath, make sure that all of the components that are there, and it's lubricated and clean of excess thread and things of that nature. On the Melco Service website, in addition to the FAQ tab, we've also got operator manuals for the UI and the advanced interfaces. The one that we just showed you was the advanced interface. Let's just show you the UI real quick. So you can change quick on the fly, very easy to do. But there is the UI, kind of a simplified user interface. We have got manuals for both of those on the service website. We've also got a technical manual, and we've also got a parts manual. So there's a lot of information readily available out there for you to help you try to correct your issues on your own. So as I stated earlier, this was going to be a pretty short, sweet. We were just going to talk about the NPT, the needle plate trimmer. Again, the needle plate trimmer is available on the EMT 16X. Newly released machine, Nate, January, February, March-ish. Early this year, this model came out. There is also a NPT upgrade kit available. It is available for the EMT 16 Plus and EMT 16s, depending on the main board that machine has in it. Please contact your sales rep if that's something that you would be interested in. If you're not sure who your sales rep is, give Misty a call here at Melco, and she can get you in contact with your sales rep. So that is it. We just wanted to touch base on the NPT and the importance of making sure that you get that needle plate on correctly. That seems to be the majority of the issues that we're running across with this trimming system. So thank you very much for your time. I hope everybody